This PowerPoint addresses information originally scheduled for the January 21st class. And even though the reading from Tong Chapter 2 addresses several theories, we will focus on the two theories used most often in making decisions in healthcare. Please note the specific objectives on the slide. These two ethical theories are a way of thinking or understanding an ethical dilemma that will help you identify options and ultimately the most desirable result. Keep in mind that using these theories as a guide is not an all or nothing activity. There is nothing absolute about the process or the decision making. The theories provide guidance in moral thinking and provide explanation or justification for moral decision making. Please review this short link video that describes the two theories and offers some scenarios that would result in different decisions based upon the incorporation of the theory as a guide. I've included a slide at the end of this video that lists the link and you can click on then. Deontology was first articulated in the 1700s, and it is the articulation of a very duty-based approach in making any decision. The action of the decision is right when it is based on a socially acceptable duty, that duty to follow rules that are considered to be good. The good rules focus on respecting the rights of others, telling the truth, keeping promises, and the action of the decision should not bring harm to another. Rules that are not to be followed included many laws that actually were in practice at the time in the 1700s. Bad rules that should not guide the decision making focused on dishonesty, coercion, manipulation, anything that harmed another. These were actually the day-to-day business, social, and political rules that guided that society in the 1700s. The central tenets of deontology were that end results or consequences of decisions were really irrelevant and should not be considered or worried about. One must obey the good rules even if the end result is not beneficial or desirable. But regardless of the end results, it is always wrong to lie. Honesty is a central focus and emphasis in deontology. And another major tenet is that there are universal truths. Honesty, respect for others, not deliberately harming others, and that these universal truths should be applied universally to all people. Another major consideration of deontology is that any decision should be based on treating people as ends, not using people as means to an end. That is, decisions should involve treating people how one would want to be treated, not as a means to your own end. That consideration is that rules should be good and grounded in pure reason and logic, and therefore rational behavior would result in good. Each ethical theory has benefits as a guide in making decisions, and the benefits of using deontology is that there is stability and continuity because decisions are made on established laws or accepted rules. Individuals have values, and decisions should result in respecting the dignity of all peoples. But each theory can be criticized in terms of its usefulness as a guide. A criticism of deontology is that the guide is very rigid, it is rule-based, and as such with human nature, even though all rules are philosophically considered to be good or pure, we know that not all rules are just. Logically speaking, absolutely following rules does not result in good. And since considering consequences is not a primary tenet of deontology, the end results may have disastrous results. But another criticism is that it does not give guidance in dilemmas in which there are two equally supportable duties. That is, where there is a conflict with two truly moral rules. So deontology allows for consistency and constancy because it is based on following rules, but it can be criticized for not allowing consideration of consequences of decisions based on those existing rules. Utilitarianism was developed in response to this historical emphasis on the mandate to follow the rules. This theory emphasized that decisions should be based not exclusively on man-made rules or laws, but on the utility or usefulness of the action or outcome. Utilitarianism was articulated in response to the prevailing social view that pleasure was sinful and therefore bad. The emphasis of utilitarianism was that pleasure was good and to be desired, and that anything that caused pain or burden resulted in unhappiness and was therefore not to be desired. A central tenet of utilitarianism is that every person's happiness mattered or counted as much as another's. Another tenet was that in making any decision, one must choose what produces the most benefit or happiness or the least burden or unhappiness, and those results or consequences must be for the greatest good for the greatest number of people. This philosophical and ethical framework was very well received. The greatest good for the greatest number, and everyone's happiness is as important as another's. But then people began to argue about it, and some argued that some benefits were better or more desirable than other benefits, and that this could actually be quantified or tabulated as in a ledger. And so subgroups developed within utilitarianism. Some began to look at ethical decision-making as a rule utilitarianism, where certain rules are to be followed which will result in the greatest good. Rules are the means to the end. You follow the rule to focus on the beneficial end or consequence. In contrast, certain other ethicists propose that decisions should be made based on the expected benefit, rather than following a universal rule that basically the benefit that rules and laws are useful as a guide, but are really expendable if the end result or consequence does not promote utility or benefit. So the act itself should result in benefit for all, and that should be the greatest benefit for the most people. Rules are only guides. But as in deontology, making decisions by using the major tenets of utilitarianism can be criticized also. Making decisions based primarily on consideration of the greatest good for the greatest number conflicts with the principle of justice. Always supporting the interest and beneficence of the majority overrides and limits the rights of minority groups. A major consideration is that there is not societal consistency. Individuals never know what society will do, and it results in essence what in the 60s were termed situational ethics or situational values. In addition, a criticism of utilitarianism is that decisions made based to ensure the good of the many may truly limit the rights of the one. So in summary, deontology focuses on the duty to follow the rule, believing that the rule is logically derived and therefore good. Right or wrong depends on the nature of the act. Honesty is good, respect for all is good, dishonesty is not good, and therefore is not to be followed. Consequences are not considered in making a decision. In contrast, utilitarianism is a consequence-oriented or based guide for decision making. The consequences should be the greatest good for the greatest number. Act utilitarianism is the purest form, where decisions are made based on considering the consequences of the act, and rules are only guides or suggestions. Rule utilitarianism proposes that decisions are made and actions taken where rules are considered good. The rule should end in beneficial consequences. The end result of utilitarianism is that the decision-making or end result is really variable and therefore results in different situational ethics. Each theory has benefits and burdens as a guide in helping to make decisions that have an ethical dimension. I would encourage you now to click on the video link to see another discussion of how these two theories can result in different decisions in healthcare scenarios.